Yo, what's going on, you guys? If you guys aren't already subscribed, really quickly, if you guys could hit that like, comment, subscribe button for me, that would be very much appreciated. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. I bought a house when I was 25. It was about a year and some change after graduating college. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small, older place on the edge of town, but it was mine. And that alone felt unreal. I remember walking through it during the showing and thinking how quiet it was. There wasn't much road noise, the neighbors weren't close enough to hear me through the walls. At the time, that felt like a luxury. The one thing everyone commented on was the basement. It was huge for a house that size, unfinished. It had low ceilings, exposed beams, and a layout that didn't make a lot of sense. Instead of one open space, the previous owner had built strange dividing walls out of plywood and 2x4s. It created narrow rooms and corridors that twisted around each other. You couldn't stand anywhere and see the whole basement at once. Every corner felt like it hid another corner. I remember thinking it would make a cool workshop someday. In reality, I barely went down there. The laundry machines were tucked into one section, and that was the only reason I ever needed to step foot below the stairs. This happened on a Tuesday night. I'd stayed late at work and didn't get home until almost midnight. By the time I ate something and changed clothes, it was already after 1 in the morning. I considered putting off laundry until the weekend, but I had already worn the last clean shirt I had, so I grabbed the basket and headed downstairs. The basement light was already on. I stopped at the top of the stairs and stared down there for a second, trying to remember if I'd been down there recently. I hadn't, not for at least a week. I almost turned it off out of habit, but then I figured I must have forgotten it last time. It wasn't worth thinking about. That was my first mistake. The basement always felt darker than it should have. Even with the lights on, old bulbs, weak wiring, everything down there had a yellowish haze that swallowed details. Shadows sat thicker in the corners, especially where the walls created those weird dead ends. I made it halfway downstairs when I smelled something off. It wasn't garbage, and not sewage either. Human, actually. A stale, sweaty smell mixed with something metallic. It stopped me cold. I stood there listening, holding the basket against my chest, suddenly very aware of how quiet the house was above me. There was no footsteps and no movement. I told myself old basements smelled weird, and that was normal. I took the last step down. The laundry area was straight ahead. To my left was one of the partitioned rooms, barely lit. I was walking toward the washer when I caught movement near the far wall. Just a flicker, like something shifting their weight. I turned my head. There was a man standing less than 15 feet away from me. He was partially hidden behind a stack of boxes I'd never unpacked. Dirty, thin. His clothes looked stiff, like they hadn't been washed in weeks. His eyes were locked onto me, wide and alert, like an animal that didn't know whether to run or attack. For a second, neither of us moved. My brain refused to catch up. I remember thinking this is some kind of trick, a reflection, a stress hallucination. Then he inhaled sharply. That broke whatever spell I was under. I dropped the laundry basket and stumbled backwards. My foot hit the bottom of the stairs, and then the sound echoed louder than it should have. The man flinched, and then he bolted. Not toward me though, deeper into the basement. I turned to run up the stairs, and every light shut off at once. The darkness was instant and complete. No glow, no outlines. It felt like the air itself had disappeared. I froze, my hands grasping at nothing. I took a step and slammed into the wall. Panic flooded in all at once. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I reached into my pocket for my phone and I felt nothing. Oh no, I had left it upstairs charging. Somewhere behind me, wood creaked. He was moving. I started yelling, not words, but just noise. It was pure panic. I screamed as loud as I could, hoping he'd run, hoping neighbors would hear, hoping something would happen. But instead, he screamed back. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't anger. It was excitement. The sound echoed through the basement walls, bouncing around the partitions so I couldn't tell where he was. I shut my mouth instantly, terrified. I'd given him exactly what he wanted, silence. But then there was footsteps, slow, barely audible, like he was testing each step. I pressed my hands against the walls and started moving sideways, feeling for a staircase. Every few seconds I heard him shift somewhere nearby, closer than I wanted to believe. The smell hit me again, but stronger now. I could hear him breathing. I turned too quickly and tripped over something low. I went down hard, my shoulder slamming into concrete. Pain shot through my arm, but I forced myself up, choking back a scream. The footsteps had sped up. I reached out desperately and my fingers closed around the wooden railing at the basement of my stairs. Relief surged through me so fast it almost made me cry. I took one step up, then something grabbed my ankle. I was yanked backwards so violently I lost my balance completely. My head struck the stair edge, and the stairs exploded in my vision. His hands were stronger than they should have been. He dragged me across the floor and I kicked wildly, connecting with something solid, then the grip loosened just enough. I twisted free and scrambled toward the stairs again, half crawling, half running. Behind me he screamed furious this time. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I remember slamming the basement door and throwing my weight against it. There was no lock. The door shuddered as something crashed into it from the other side. I slid my feet against the floor, bracing myself, every muscle screaming. Another slam. The door bowed inward. I screamed for help until my throat burned. I don't know how long it lasted. Seconds felt like minutes, but finally, the pressure stopped. Footsteps retreated. I didn't move. When I was sure he was gone, I ran to my phone and called the police. They arrived fast. Faster than I expected, honestly. They found a basement window pried open, bedding in one of the back rooms, food wrappers I didn't even recognize, a bucket in the corner. One of the officers looked at me and said quietly, "I think he was living here." I moved out actually 3 months later, and sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear I can hear breathing behind me.